Good evening and welcome to the June 20th, 2017 Glendale City Council meeting. May I please have the roll call?
Councilmember Agajanian. Present. Devine.
Here.
Najarian. Sinanian. Mayor Karapetian.
Here.
Next will be the flag salute. Councilmember Agajanian.
Let's salute to the most recognizable flag in the world.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for today's invocation by Rabbi Simitra Bachman, Shabbat of Glendale and Foothill Communities.
Evening. Teddy Roosevelt was a man who had a reputation for being frank and direct. In 1900, a year before he entered the White House, he wrote these words, and I quote, "No community is healthy where it is ever necessary to distinguish one politician from his fellow because he is honest. Moreover, it is not enough that a public official should be honest. No amount of honesty will avail if he is not also brave and wise." In the words of Teddy Roosevelt, the weakling and the coward cannot be saved by honesty alone. End quote. Leadership requires two virtues that seem simple until they become necessary: honesty and courage. All of you have earned the right to be here today by winning the trust of the people of Glendale. But along with that honor comes a duty of humility, integrity, and public service. So let's settle our hearts for just a moment in prayer. God of justice and mercy, thank you for the gift of life and the opportunity to serve the people of our city. Help us to act with character and conviction. Help us to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us to speak with tolerance and restraint. Give us a spirit of service. Remind us that we are stewards of your authority. Guide us to be the leaders that your people need. Help us to see the humility and dignity of those who disagree with us, and to treat all persons, no matter how disadvantaged or poor, with the reverence your creation deserves. And finally, renew us with the strength of your presence and the joy of helping to build a community worthy of the human person. We ask this as your children, confident in your goodness and love. Amen.
May I please have your report?
The agenda for the June 20th, 2017 regular meeting of the Glendale City Council was posted on Friday, June 16th, 2017 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Okay, what's next, please?
3 will be presentation and appointments. 3A, agenda preview for meetings of Tuesday, June 27th, 2017. Notice the regular Housing Authority and the City Council meetings for June 27, 2017 and July 5th have been canceled.
Okay, what is next?
3B would be presentation of the We Own the Health of Our Community Charter.
Okay, who's going to present it?
So, Mayor Garpetian and council members, my name is Bruce Nelson. I am the Administrative Director for Community Services at Glendale Adventist Medical Center. I'm delighted to be here again to speak about We Own the Health of Our Community. Let me first of all acknowledge the wonderful role that the city has played in helping this project develop the kind of visibility in our community that it really deserves, and it will certainly benefit it going forward. So especially I want to thank Scott Ochoa, who is our event chair, and that's for the second time, and also Tom Lorenz, I'm back here, who is our master of ceremonies. Pardon me. I was going to say PR person, but that too. So thank you very much for your respective roles. I also want to introduce some people that we have with us this evening. And so we have the chair of our Healthier Community Coalition, out of which this has grown, and that's Edna Kerensky. So thank you, Edna, for your continuing leadership of our coalition. She has a lifetime appointment as our chair. And also I'd like to introduce our project director for the We Own the Health of Our Community specific project, and that is Gary Nelson. Concluding our comments tonight, our CEO, Kevin Roberts from Glendale Adventist Medical Center, will be making some remarks. However, right now, we would like to actually draw your attention to our charter. Now, we noted that this would be a big charter signing event. And of course, by that we meant 4 feet wide and 6 feet tall. And in fact, our charter signing event, when it occurred on the evening of April 6th, was attended by many, many leaders in our community. As a matter of fact, I think it was Scott who made the comment that that the city had to identify a designated survivor. Because there were so many Glendale leaders there, if something awful would happen, then we would just be at a terrible loss. So it was nice to have that presence of support for that evening. And now, of course, we're continuing this, and I know that Carrie wants to specifically introduce the concept behind this, and so I'm going to invite her up here right now to draw your attention
Good
to our
evening.
charter.
Thank you for having us. Again, I just wanted to give you guys a brief introduction what We Own the Health of Our Community's collective impact initiative is. Through the We Own the Health of Our Community initiative, community leaders are collaborating in a cross-sector approach that engages the broader Glendale community in working together to accelerate health status improvement. By working together in a collaborative effort to address and resolve the growing health risks facing our community, this initiative is helping local organizations collectively accomplish what we are not able to achieve separately. So, at that time, would you like to sign our charter?
Of course.
And after he signs, we'd like to invite the council members, if you would, to come down and have a photo with our mayor and the charter right here in council chambers. If you'd be willing to do that, we'd love to get you in a photo. And Edna? Oh, let me. It really is exciting. I think about an upcoming holiday that we have, 4th of July, where we celebrate the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And I look at this document and all of the signatures. I think there's even more here than signed the original Declaration of Independence. But this isn't a Declaration of Independence. It's quite the opposite. It's a declaration of unity and common purpose. Believe it or not, if all of these organizations fulfill their obligations to this commitment to uplift the quality of benefits and health incentives for all their employees, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of Glendalians represented by those signatures. We will save lives. So, Mayor, your signature was a contributor to saving lives in your community, not just participating in a ceremonial event. This is really unique, this whole initiative with all of the different employers, city government, health systems, hospitals, clinics. This is a revolutionary approach to population health. And to have a document like this is very inspiring to those of us at the front lines in the restoration of health in this community. So I want to thank you for your participation, passionate participation, and city manager, in your commitment through I believe there are thousands of employees in the city that are participating in this as well. So we can look forward to our community actually having a healthier, more vibrant life and longevity, and contributing to this community for years to come. So thank you so much. Any questions?
Can you explain to the residents, the people that are watching tonight, how they can be a part of this and what they can do in their lives to reach this mission?
Absolutely. So the signatories here really represent leaders in our community who have some measure of responsibility over the lives of others. And so those leaders and many other members of the community too that have an opportunity to share health information with our constituents out here in Glendale, with all the residents of Glendale. And that health information is the kind of information that can make a difference in people's lives. Now, right now, we're focusing on diabetes. So working closely with the school district, closely with a number of other organizations in that process to focus on prevention and making sure that children can grow up to live healthy lives. So that's all a part of the process. This is being spearheaded by the Healthier Community Coalition. So we would invite organizations or individuals in our community who would like to be a closer part of this to come and visit us in our Healthier Community Coalition meetings. And they can learn more about that on the website healthyglendale.org, healthyglendale.org. And the list of our Healthier Community Coalition meetings is there. And of course, we're building up to a health summit this fall too, so there'll be opportunity for individuals who have a specific interest or specific responsibility in the community over the lives and health of our residents to provide some input, some feedback, and some planning into what's going to happen going forward. Does that do it?
Yeah. I was just thinking about the Ciclavia event that we just had. We certainly have a community that is interested in their health and their well-being and their families, and so this kind of fits right into the common goals of our city and our health providers. So thank you for all the hard work. I know this must have been a lot of meetings, a lot of collaboration, but it's a fantastic job that you've done. Thank you.
And thank you. Now we're going to leave this with you. I understand that it will be displayed then down in the lobby to City Hall starting tomorrow. So again, thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments? Yeah. Don't leave yet. Don't leave yet.
I just want to thank Kevin Roberts and Mr. Nelson and the other group who are here and all those who work in Glendale Adventist Medical Center, which the name changed recently. I can't remember. Glendale Adventist.
Adventist Health Glendale.
Adventist Health Glendale. Glendale Adventist, there is a company called Leapfrog, which reviews the hospitals on different categories. I guess it's over 30 categories, one being that patients are not falling from the bed, which is very important, and other problems which there are in hospitals. Sometimes you go to a hospital and get sick, but they are very good. They review that, and they ranked Glendale Adventist A being the best, and around here, which we have 4 different hospitals, Glendale Adventist is the only one which every 6 months they review the hospitals. And for the last 4 times at least, Glendale Adventist kept grade A or ranked A. Other hospitals, they are not ranked A. They're B and C, being 4 different hospitals which we have here. I think this is a major accomplishment for Glendale Adventist Medical Center, and I want to thank you, Mr. Roberts, and others who are here.
Yes, I've been a member of one way or the other with the Adventist Health Glendale, formerly known as Glendale Adventist Medical Center. Yes, I was on a advisory board. I'm on a civic advisory board at this time. I was on a foundation board, and I personally know how well you operate in our city, and I want to thank you for your involvement in our community. It's not just the health part, it's just the community part. And your service is not just only here in our community, you also do missions outside our country, in other countries. I know you do mission compassion mission. Compassion action. And in Armenia, and we want to thank you for that as well. Actually, Adventist was formed a year before city was incorporated, and we go back over 100 years, 110 years. So I want to thank you as well for being a pillar of our community and for everything you do. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you.
What is next, please?
3C, presentation by Glendale Police and Fire Departments, preparedness for man-made and natural emergencies.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, tonight what we're going to do is kind of give you an overview of some of the efforts that we have done to prepare the city of Glendale for different types of emergencies or disasters that could occur. As you are well aware, we faced several different types of threats. We have man-made threats as well as natural disasters that we have to be prepared for. Well, we are as prepared as we think we can possibly be with the available personnel and resources we have. We always know that we continue to work together. The one thing that Glendale has at its strength is the partnerships that each of the city departments working together provide a teamwork of people who basically are force multipliers in the way that we're able to provide safety in this community. Even though a lot of times you see it's police and fire on the front lines, we couldn't do our jobs without the support of all the other directors and city management to help us do that. So tonight we're going to give you an overview. If you have some questions, we can try and answer those. The one thing we probably won't want to do is really get into some real details about really what we do and how we do it, for obvious reasons, because some of the things that we do are on a level that rises to Homeland Security things, and we're not going to want to be, kind of put that out into the public. But we will try to share with you everything that you possibly would want tonight.
Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, it's a pleasure to be back and to talk about the capabilities of public safety as it relates to what we're going to talk about tonight is active shooters and large incidents. So your police and your fire department have been working very hard to make sure that we're completely capable of handling whatever comes up, and I think you're going to be pleased with what you see tonight.
Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, my name is Toby Darby. I'm a sergeant in the Glendale Police Department. I'll keep this kind of brief and kind of give you an overview of what we teach throughout our communities and our police departments and show you what we're doing with police department and fire department first responders in responding to critical incidents, such as active shooter. The FBI defined active shooter as an individual actively engaged in killing or attempting to kill people in a confined and heavily populated area. The active shooter term is being used right now throughout the nation, throughout the world. Unfortunately, it's more than just active shooter. It's actually massacre. It's mass homicide. I mean, we're seeing things now. It's not just guns. We're seeing knives. We're seeing explosions. We're seeing cars driving into crowds. A bunch of different things that are occurring, which we'll talk a little briefly about today, and where we are and how we are dealing with that here in Glendale. The purpose of an active shooter is mass homicide. Victims are often dehumanized, and it's actually often acts of vengeance in these types of incidents. And I will be using the term active shooter through this presentation as well, keeping in mind that it applies to everything. So I'm going to take you to an FBI report from 2000 to 2013 to kind of show you the overall perspective of this, and that is the highlighting area I want you to look at is 11.4 at the very top. Through that period of 13 years, there was 160 active shooter events in the United States of America, averaging 11.4 per year. There was 1,043 casualties, 486 resulting in death in those particular incidents. Flash forward to 2014 to 2015, one of the most recent studies and report from the FBI, it shows that we are having a huge uptick in these type of incidents, being that we're at now 20 active shooter incidents occurring in the U.S. alone per year. Stats for 2014 to the mid part of 2016 are reflected up on the board today. There's 53 incidents in 26 states, 389 casualties, and you look at the number of casualties now, as you can see on the board, 159 ended up in deaths. That's only for half of 2016, as I mentioned. We've seen some incidents recently in the media, such as Orlando, Dallas, San Bernardino, which was kind of close to home here in our backyards, to show that it is a threat here in the U.S. and that the agencies need to be prepared for something like this and working with not only fire departments, police departments, other entities in the city as well. So one of the watershed moments for law enforcement happened on April 20th, 1999 at the Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado. Everybody, I think, knows about the Columbine incident. This was an incident that actually made us look at our tactics and how we can better ourselves in responding to these types of incidents. On this particular incident, 2 individuals went into a school, killed 12 kids and 1 teacher. And at the time, law enforcement's tactics were to stage on the outside and wait for appropriate resources that were better equipped, such as SWAT, to go in and deal with it. We have since changed our tactics, and we are now doing things and learning on every single incident that we come across that we hear about overseas or here in the United States on how we can better improve that. We do, as our city, we have personnel, we go and we talk to people that were involved with Orlando, that were involved with San Bernardino and other incidents, and find out how we can better our tactics and what we can do better to keep our city safe. Since the 2000 points went after Columbine, we've had training that's actually required now by post to have recurring training every 2 years. We train in all types of facilities, everything that we have in our city. We have different tactics that we train our officers, our SWAT personnel, and also regionalized training with other entities such as our sister cities, Los Angeles Police Department, Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and also federal as well. We've also reached out to our community, the businesses, schools, shopping establishments inside the community, and let them know kind of what we're faced with, how they can better be trained and actually be able to respond instead of reacting in the unlikely event one would occur here in the city of Glendale, which we'll get to a little further down the line. Chief Lynch?
Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, I'll continue the presentation here. For the fire department side, one of the defining moments that occurred that kind of changed the fire department response was the LAX shooting, November of 2013. And I think most of you would recall that event. A single shooter that went into LAX and took the life of a TSA agent. One of the issues that was created there was that occurred was the communication was difficult with police and fire, and there was a large amount of time, lag time, in getting to the patient. And that's one of the things that I believe our partnership here in Glendale with police and fire, we've addressed that situation, and we continue to work together. I think our training has been extremely effective. Like as you see, our Glendale Police and Fire partnered together since 2014, conducted multiple active shooter drills. We take advantage of some of the new construction that's going up. We use the older buildings before they're taken down, and we're able to conduct a variety of real world scenario type drills. As you can see here, the police role, and we bring this down to a pretty rudimentary level, but there's to neutralize the threat. And with fire, we've developed rescue task force, which to give you a quick definition of that would be where firefighters are going in to initiate a rescue with force protection, being possibly a scenario would be 2 firefighter paramedics moving in with 4 armed officers, leading them in to allow them to effect a rescue and get out and begin the triage, treatment, and transport phase of the event. Both of our agencies participate in mutual aid, do joint training. We participate, obviously, Burbank and Pasadena, both SWAT and fire, and within our area here of Area C. LAPD and SWAT and LASO also assist us in providing training on both the police and fire side. I will turn this back over to Sergeant Darby.
All right. Going back one thing, with the LAPD SWAT and the FBI Tactical Bomb, we're constantly reaching out to other agencies and asking, hey, what is it that we can do better? How is it that we can better equip ourselves? What are you experiencing that we can learn from? So we constantly reach out to them, and we've actually tested our capabilities with mutual aid and Area C deployment with an exercise at Glendale Galleria, and to see a mass deployment of multiple agencies to see if we are effective in controlling that. So some of the current trends that we're dealing with right now, and I know it's not easy to talk about, and when I teach this, it's not easy to discuss, especially among community members who really don't understand what actually occurs in violent situations. But some of the trends that we're experiencing right now pertains to terrorism and homegrown violent extremists. Information is being distributed around the internet where people are getting information on how they should carry out attack, what they should use. So it's incumbent upon us to know what that is so we can better prepare ourselves. Obviously, as you've seen with shootings, maybe result of domestic violence, a bullying situation, a workplace, a violent workplace type thing, or a hostile worker. And as you've seen last week, maybe somebody who's actually making a political statement to show their agenda. So there's a bunch of things that we are facing now in our society with that. Explosives, we talked about fire, vehicles in the crowd, cyber attacks, and our connection now with the federal cooperation for intelligence, getting together and working as a team in order to successfully make sure that our citizens are safe. The community training that we're providing for the businesses and schools and different establishments in the city pretty much tells them three things, and that is in the unlikely event that they're equipped or they're faced with an active shooter incident, we're telling them to run, hide, or fight. And that's the three basic things, and I know in an emergency situation, people don't rise to the occasion, but they default to their level of training. And with this type of training, they're able to get that information, see what these incidents look like, and be able to prepare for something. So in the event that they're in a room, they kind of know where to go and what to do and prepare themselves in the event one would occur. We also talk about first aid and buddy care, and that is how to apply first aid to somebody else who was hurt or themselves, because there might be a delayed response with law enforcement pursuing the predator, and fire department rescue task forces coming in and making those specific rescues. And lastly, I think one of the biggest benefits that we have with this is letting the community know what the expectations of first responders are. First responders, what the fire role is, what the police department roles, and more so how they can help us in giving us proper intelligence, where the guy was last seen, what he looks like, so we can better respond to that particular incident. As I mentioned, some of the stuff, businesses, schools, local organizations, but also within our city, we've provided training to pretty much all city personnel, from Glendale Water and Power, Public Works, Library, Parks, just to name a few, and some of which you list above. Now, the important thing about this is that right now the police department, we're not operating at full capacity with personnel, and these type of incidents, they eat up a lot of manpower. Fire department as well, I'm sure that they deal with a lot of manpower. On one particular incident, I know in a SWAT environment, we get eaten up personnel because people are given certain jobs and they have to stay in certain areas. So what's good about this is that the city personnel have been exposed to this training, and they know how they can help us out in the event that we needed streets closed off or we needed resources to a specific area in order to deal with it. So it was very beneficial for that. So I'm going to conclude and turn it over to Chief Castro for how we're moving forward with our training in the future and what we're doing for equipment-wise as well. Or Chief Fish.
So as if you're not aware, we do have something pretty revolutionary in our city, and that is the fact that we have EMTs in our police department. EMTs are emergency medical technicians, and as you saw at the presentation to Supervisor Barger, this is like very important for the police department to be able to handle their own problems. If there's a problem in a tactical area where we're not going to be able to get to them, they can handle their own. They can stop bleeding. They can maybe even get an airway back open. And again, a fantastic thing that you have in the city as well is you have paramedics in every single response district. So that's something that you don't see in very many cities. A Class 1 fire department, again, that goes back to policies that were made a number of years ago by city councils to say, yes, so this is important to us to have a Class 1 fire department. Tactical medicine, this is something that is newer, right, within the last 5 years to get to a point where we can walk into a building in that rescue task force configuration and know that there may be bullets flying around us, but at some point someone's got to do something. We can't just sit by the curb and wait for people to die, because that's what happened in the past. So this has been revolutionary moving forward, getting tactical medicine in place. And then another thing that we do that's really something new for us is our command staffs are getting together on a monthly basis, and we're dealing with large incidents as a command staff. How are we going to deal with the incident if it was a large brush fire, say, up in one of the canyons? And how are we going to evacuate? And how are we going to command these incidents together? Instead of being in silos, we're now looking at these things together. And then the other really important thing is an event like Ciclavia that we had just recently, this last weekend. We have, or 2 weekends ago, is to have event planning by the police and the fire department together, so that should there be an unfortunate incident, we would be able to respond to the best of our abilities. And I believe, yeah, that is it. We'd like to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions?
Not so much questions for me. I have a lot of things I wrote down. Oh, here I go. Excuse me. First of all, I think this is evidence to everyone that's watching of our preparedness, that you all are watching what's happening, learning, educating yourselves, preparing the community. One of my questions was going to be, are you going out to businesses to educate them? And you answered that question for me. The other thing is that I wanted to mention was the fact that you mentioned Supervisor Barger, and she was so impressed. And I will not forget this, and I hope that this message got down to all of you from those that were attending. She was so impressed at the collaboration between the two departments and how well you work together, and the way and the methods and the techniques and just these sorts of procedures that you're adopting for the safety of this community. And I hope that the residents that are watching will realize and appreciate what you're doing for all of us in this community. And I know that it's getting harder and harder to predict what type of violence is going to happen. It's not just that shooter, but it could be anything. And to know that you are prepared for anything should be reassuring to our community. And I did attend the Homeland Security conference. It was a one-day last year for police and fire, and that was most interesting. And I could see that you were, everyone in the room was learning a lot, and you had the Galleria was present. A lot of the big box stores in our community were there, and I know that was a really good step. And do you do that every year? Is that something that happens?
That was a grant that we applied for and obtained it, so that they do like 50 of those across the nation a year, and Glendale was selected for last year's class, and they came out, sent their experts, and we did that over at the Hilton. So it was a grant-funded opportunity.
That was invaluable, wasn't it? It was really a great program. So, you mentioned Columbine was 1999. It seems like it was yesterday. So that was kind of shocking to me. But I just want to say thank you for what you're doing. I know that the citizens of our city appreciate it. And we thank you and respect you for everything that you're doing. Just keep up the good work. And that's why you are all so important to this community. Thank you.
About homegrown extremists and lone wolves. Do we do anything to figure out if we have in our community? I mean, this is something that happens all over the United States and Europe. So what we are doing in that respect?
So we have a great partnership with our federal entities, and we share intelligence. We go to meetings. We participate in group settings where we talk about those incidents. And so we prepare for those, and we get briefed on them, and we're very successful at this point. So, yes, we do.
And also about our water. Are we doing anything that nobody can contaminate it? I don't know, maybe it's not the right question for you guys.
Well, obviously...
years and years they're saying that the water is easy to contaminate, and then you can have lots of victims. So I just wonder what we do.
We do. We have a sharing network that we use. And so, water, power, there's a variety of threats that come to us on a constant basis. So we do track those. The water department, they test the water. There's a process in place to ensure that, the water that's going out is safe.
Thank you.
Yes, I want to thank you all for being here tonight. I asked for this report to come forward because considering the incidents that we had in the last few years in Orlando, Dallas, San Bernardino, and last week in Washington was a political statement, also LAX shooting. They're kind of all different, but in a way they're all the same. The motive is the same. So I wanted for our community to know that they are safe, community to know that we are doing everything we can do between our police and fire to collaborate and work together in case of emergency. And as was indicated, that we collaborate with other agencies like FBI and CIA and every other agency. That's why our it's very important for us to keep a good relationship with all of them. So whenever we need information from them, it's a two-way street. It cannot be a one-way street. So it's great that we are collaborating with other agencies as well. And I want the public to know that they are as safe as they can be. Glendale is a great city. It's a safe city because we have a good police and fire department. So I want to thank you all, and thank you for a great report, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What is next, please?
Four would be consent items. The following are routine and may be acted upon by one motion. Any member of council or the audience requesting separate consideration may do so by making such request before motion is proposed. 4A, minutes of the regular city meeting of June 6, 2017.
Okay, is a motion to move the consent
I'll move the
item?
consent.
Second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Agajanian,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes?
Najarian, Sinanian, Mayor Garabetian.
Yes. What's next, please?
Next would be city council and staff comments.
Any comments?
I do. I would like to make some comments. Thank you. First of all, I got, and this is for, I guess, Mr. Ochoa. I'm not sure, Mr. Galani, if this one is Galanian, if this one's for you. It's a question about the use of large plastic bags on hillsides. And the residents are asking about those residents that are leaving these plastic bags on slopes, on the hillside slopes, for long periods of time. In one case, it's years. And kind of what is the ordinance? They're stating they're unsightful, and they're detrimental to the integrity of hillsides as well. So I don't know. We do have an ordinance, don't we, about the timing, how long they can, it's appropriate to have them on your hillside, or when? Is it maybe can you clear that up for me and the residents?
Sure. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Councilmember Devine, these plastic tarps are primarily used as a temporary means to secure hillsides, more specifically during rainy season. And for locations, for sites that either have active building permits and they're not at a stage that are available already to complete the hillside work. So we do give them temporary relief so that they can go through the rainy season, secure the hillside, make sure that the roads adjacent to these project sites are safe, but they're only temporary. We, as of actually this over the weekend, had one case that we had previously directed the property owner to remove them, but they had failed to do so. It was brought to our attention, and last Friday, Saturday, this particular property owner removed them. So as we see sites that they have kept these plastic covers past the rainy season, we redirect the property owners to take them down and make the necessary, address the necessary fixing of the slopes. So if the project goes through another rainy season, then they unfortunately will have to bring them back, but they're only temporary means.
Are there parameters for rainy season? When you say rainy season, is it like from January to March?
Yeah, typically middle of December through, in our longest period is early April.
April. And so this is complaint driven. If someone sees this plastic on a hillside for a long period of time, they should call Public Works and report this. And
yeah, Councilmember Devine, that's one way of doing it, but we also do have a listing of sites that we have allowed, again, as a temporary means for these plastic covers to go up. So as time allows for staff to go around, they will chase it down and redirect the property owners to remove them.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I hope that answers the questions for the residents that we're asking. The second item I wanted to bring up was an article that I saw in the in Business Life magazine. And now that now we're in this very, very hot season, we've just gotten out of these mandatory restrictions on water conservation, et cetera. And I just want to let everyone know that even though we're in the phase 1 of water conservation in our city, there still are several no water waste policies that are always, and I say always, in effect. And those would be such as water should not be used for hose washing of hardscapes, no overspray onto sidewalks or gutters, decorative fountains can only be used with recirculation system, fix leaks on your premises within 72 hours. Irrigation times are between 6 p.m. and 9 a.m., and no irrigation on windy days, and when it's raining or within 48 hours after it rains. And we still are encouraging you to use drought-tolerant plants. And this brings me to the city programs, and we do offer classes on, they are, customers can, the city offers gardening classes. Is there someone here that can tell us about the gardening classes? And then there's also solar power. The incentives are coming. On July 3rd, you can apply for those. Do we have?
I can tell you about the solar on the
gardening,
water-wise gardening. You'll see the publication of them, and we'll use one of the rooms here on campus. And I think it was just a few Saturdays ago, had a number of folks there at Perkins learning all about how to do water-wise gardening. So that comes up periodically. As you mentioned, the Go Solar program, cash incentive that's offered by the city, you approved as part of the budget for the coming fiscal year is upon us, and so we'll basically rebate 50% of a solar installation up to a maximum of $100,000 per customer. So between July 3rd of this year through July 10th of this year. So only 1 week, so it fills up fast. You submit your information. There will be a lottery drawing, and people are notified via email when the lottery drawing takes place. And we will allocate the funds that have been budgeted. So the number to call, if you go online at first, it's GWP Solar Solutions at glendaleca.gov, the city's extension. GWP Capital Solar Solutions, all one word, at glendaleca.gov, or call 818-548-2750 is the place to go for more information. But it's a good application or a good program, and gets oversubscribed every year, even though the council's added still more money in the last couple of years.
Yeah, great. And there are also the smart home rebate programs for residents that that purchase products that qualify for conservation. So I wanted everyone to know, especially about the solar program, because I know we get a lot of questions, I think, about that. The last thing I want to mention is a couple of weeks ago we had a report on coyotes and what residents should do to remain safe, and what to do and not to do. And a few of our staff got together, and it was Eliza Papazian from Communications and Dean Lopez from Graphics. And they put together this guide. It's a kids edition on your guide to avoiding coyote conflict. And it's absolutely fantastic. And I recommend it to even adults that are out there. It's kind of a fun little booklet, but for kids, it's a terrific learning tool. Can you tell me where they can, for Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, and I know school isn't in session now, maybe summer school, or I don't know where we can find the most kids, but these are absolutely great.
Mayor Garpetian, members of City Council, Councilmember Devine, we actually printed these this week, and we distribute them to all of our public libraries and major public counters here in the city. We actually have a stack here in the back of City Council chambers. We are also going to have additional copies made for the different programs in the schools that are currently ongoing or that are about to come. I also want to say that, we like to save trees and paper and all that stuff. There will be a PDF link that will be available so parents can download certain pages. Teachers can use them as a teaching moment at particular times and dates during the school year. But with that being said, on the back page, we do provide the handy information to further their education with our partners with the Humane Society and other entities.
Right. You have emergency numbers and the Pasadena Humane Society, the Red Cross. So this is really a terrific idea, and I compliment everybody that was involved in this little publication. I was thinking maybe even HOAs, the homeowners associations, if you deliver some copies to them.
Absolutely. Councilmember Devine, if there are any organizations out there that reach out to you or would like to reach out directly to our office, they can call us at 548-4844 and request a number of copies, and we'll get them delivered to the Girl Scouts, the Boy Scouts, you name it, we'll make it happen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Nice job.
About the solar,
Yes, sir.
how much we allocated for solar this year?
This year, at this point, I can't recall, but I will get you that number. I don't know what the amount is, a significant amount that's been increased, but I will get you that number.
Is this like every year we do it, right?
Yes, sir.
There is no reason. Okay, one more question. Why we don't allocate more money? I didn't know when we were approving the budget. I think I missed that. Since there is a lottery, and I know that later we have to spend $350 million on Grayson Power Plant. If there are such a demand, why we don't let people have it? We don't help them to put the solar system on their building.
I think we, as a matter of policy, council strives to keep some balance between how much you subsidize the investment in somebody's private property, and at the same time still achieve some of our sustainability goals. But the council's ultimately free to increase the funding and increase the allotment ultimately that goes. So right now it's $100,000 up to a maximum of $100,000 per customer. That the amount that we would allocate, what we found in the past, could get eaten up by a handful of rather large installations. But really it's the council's call as to how you'd like to do that. We can bring it back if it's council's pleasure and allow you to reconsider the parameters.
And this 100,000, not for the regular private houses, is it?
For customers. For
that should be large.
So it's up to a maximum of 100,000. Some will be very small.
Yeah, on the private house, how much is allocated approximately?
I would be guessing at this point. I couldn't tell you as I sit here.
Okay, next time when you get the chance. I'm just curious.
You want to agendize this item to come back and
right, because if there is a lottery, so...
I'll support that.
Okay.
Discuss as to how many a year, how much was the cost for residential, for commercial, can bring us details.
And how it's going to help us, to reduce the cost on Grayson. I don't know how much effect it's going to have. Maybe the impact will not be significant, but at least we will learn that what we have to do.
Yeah, thank you. Councilmember Devine, would you...
Microphone, please.
Sorry. Would you repeat the water conservation portion about the fountains? You said it's a circulating water?
It's not circulating. It's let's see. It's not potable. It's a recirculation system. So in other words, it's not potable water. But it's constantly circulating. And
But isn't every fountain has to circulate if they want to operate?
I don't know.
I think the idea was to preclude those fountains that it wasn't circulating, where it was just sometimes more decorative. Put some water in, let it run, and basically you're wasting that water as it goes into a.
Okay. I don't know if anybody has a fountain like that, but okay, thank you.
Just a warning. Just a warning.
Yeah. All right. Thanks very much. What's next?
Next is 3-minute general public comments. You have one card.
Okay. Marina Kachaturian.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, City Councils, and staff. My name is Marina Kachaturian. Oh, it's cold in here. I'm 59 years old, young woman, I'm living in Glendale for 37 years. I always work and paid my taxes, but it's not enough to live normal life without borrowing money for rent or for bills. So I applied for Section 8. For 14 years, I'm waiting for the good news. Every year, I was receiving renewal application to fill out every changes in my household. So many times, I send a letter to Section 8 department to inform them about my income and my rent, but every time they answer me that I'm extremely low income and I have only 2 points, but I have to wait. I ask them, how many points do I have to be qualified? They say 5. I have to be homeless, senior, or handicapped. After I moved from that address, because I couldn't pay my rent anymore, I gave them my new address. For 4 years, I'm not receiving any letter about yearly changes, and I was wondering what happened to my Section 8. I came to the city housing department to check what's going on. She checked and told me that I'm still on a waiting list, it was a good news, but I only have 2 points. I was shocked. I asked her, how you know that I have only 2 points? I never received anything from this department, and they don't know what changed in my life. Maybe I'm handicapped now, or homeless, or die. How you know that I have only 2 points? She didn't have any answers. So now I need an answer from you, all of you. What's going on in the Section 8? What happened to Glendale? Before it was different. You didn't have to have a connection to get something, even a job. Last 15 years, it's all changed. If you don't have any connection, you are nothing. I'm a surgical tech. I graduated 6 years ago, $17,000 on my shoulder. But I can't find a job. You know why? Because of my age. In the application, they don't ask about your age. They only ask when you graduate your high school. Isn't that obvious? What is that? 2 times I applied for escort job, not even surgical tech, escort job in the Glendale Adventist Hospital. I put all my diplomas, information in there. I receive email that I'm overqualified for this job. After a week, I apply again, and I put only high school diploma. Got an email that I'm not qualified.
So, Kachaturian, your time is up. If you can wrap up, please.
Okay.
I'll give you enough time to wrap up.
Okay. After that, I got another email. It says, you're not qualified. I wasn't mad. I was just laughing because I don't have a connection. That's how it is Glendale now. I'm not asking for a charity or money. I'm just crying out loud for help. I know. If I move from Glendale, I'm going to lose my Section 8, which is I was waiting for 14 years. So please help me. Thank you for your time and thank you for listening.
If you leave your information with the city clerk, they will
This
contact you.
Last
I understand.
I have, and this is the points that I have.
Thank you. What is next, please?
Next would be action items. 8A, Director of Public Works regarding citywide automated container replacement program. 8A1, motion approving and directing staff to initiate the procurement process.
Okay.
We will, yes, sir, bring up our newest addition to the Public Works Department. Assistant Director Chris Marcarello comes to us from the fine city of San Fernando to talk about this procurement.
Yes, and it's really a pleasure to be here tonight, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Chris Marcarello. I'm with the Public Works Department, and I'm going on 2 months. It's been a busy 2 months, but I'm enjoying every minute of it. Tonight, it's my privilege to be here to update you on our automated container replacement project and talk a little trash. So first, a brief background on our collection system. The current automated container program was initiated in the early 90s, and our team provides collection services for residential accounts, most multifamily accounts, and some commercial services in the community. With these accounts, we have approximately 150,000 containers, and we collect nearly 100,000 tons of materials in the city. Starting the current fiscal year 17, the City Council approved a multi-year capital project to initiate the phased replacement of automated containers throughout the community. The existing budget is $350,000, which is divided amongst the replacement of containers, as well as the metal bins that you see that are used in commercial collection activities outside of businesses. Based on this budget, we'll be able to replace approximately 5,000 containers per year and 100 bins per year. But based on the timing of where we're at right now at the end of the fiscal year and the start of the new fiscal year, the thought is to combine those funds so we can get a better economy of scale and better unit prices. The map above shows you the targeted locations for this first phase of the replacement program. With roughly 3 containers for most residential properties, we estimate that we'll be able to replace containers at approximately 3,000 properties in these specific collection areas. Now, these locations were selected first because they have the oldest stock of containers in the city, and they're the most dated according to members of our team. As you can see, the locations are in the far northern and southern portions of the community, and as proposed, we would work through year after year until we reach the central portion of the community and replace all the containers citywide. Now, the current container system that we use is similar to most communities. We utilize a source-separated 3-container collection system with burgundy or maroon color holding trash materials, green holding green waste, and then the gray holding recyclables. And I've been told that the reason back in the 90s that the burgundy or maroon color was selected was somebody who was a USC fan at the time, but I haven't verified it. Today, we have presented some design alternatives for the council's consideration based on a few different factors. The first is cost. That existing burgundy maroon color for trash costs an additional $2,500 every time we place an order, and we typically do that once or twice per year. Since we're the only community that uses that color, in order for our manufacturers to produce new containers, they have to fully flush their production system and then add that color in order to make our containers. The second is related to the traditional color that you find in source-separated recycling programs. Over time, we've found that the most common colors that you see are black for trash, green for green waste, and then blue or gray for recyclables. And as you can see, we have both the green and then the blue, but not that black color. And then a final factor is related to some upcoming recycling mandates that we'll be faced with in the coming years, and most specifically with organic materials. These regulations could require that we rebrand those green waste containers to include all organic materials, including certain types of food waste.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Yes, go ahead. They look like same volume. Is this really same thing, same volume? The new and is same as the old one?
Yes, sir. The models that you see up there are 96-gallon containers, and those are typically found at most residential properties.
So the volume-wise, it's not going to change. It's just the color.
That's correct, sir.
And the material will be different?
Yeah, no, the material is the same. It's a post-consumer recycled plastic that's used, very heavy duty.
It's the same company, right, that we'll be ordering it from?
Well, we'll get into that, Mayor and Council. In terms of our plan is to issue a request for qualifications and get bids, but that's our thought.
And also one more question.
Yes, sir.
That metal bar or whatever they call it. Is that to hold the plastic together? Why is there is a metal bar there?
Yes, for strength, for stability for the container. So, Mayor and Council, as proposed, based on these factors, we would request that the Council consider a recommendation to make a minor change to our container color scheme. The proposed new design would utilize a solid black container and then different lid colors for each type of the waste stream. And as you can see above, each lid would include a hot stamp waste sorting instruction to inform residents of the appropriate materials that go within each container. And in the coming years, if we need to make some changes for those upcoming recycling programs that I mentioned, we would only need to purchase the new container lids, which are roughly 20% of the total cost of a unit, so it makes good financial sense. The city of Pasadena uses a similar approach, and based on our conversations with their staff, they're very satisfied with it. And then as noted below the fourth bullet, the new containers would also include RFID chips that could be used to help with route optimization efforts. These chips can only be activated with a card reader and help to transmit information as to whether a container has been serviced or not. And this is important because in this next fiscal year, we have some funding to look at our different trash collection routes and analyze them better. It's something that we haven't done in a number of years. And this would tie in directly with it. It would be able to allow us to monitor when containers are serviced and better track customer calls that we get in the office.
So every trash can will have a transmitter on it?
Correct, an RFID chip, and it can only be activated with a reader, which would be equipped on a vehicle.
Okay, more wireless. Go ahead.
Of course, it has been written here, it has nothing to do with the privacy. I think nobody can track anything, right?
No, it's solely, Mayor and Council, it's just solely for optimization efforts. And Shay has displayed some sample container lid colors back behind us on the chairs to give you a better idea of what they look like. Of course, they'd be equipped with the waste sorting instruction that you see up on the screen, but hopefully that gives you a sense of what they look like. So again, the proposed changes to our container design would help to reduce costs. They would move to that traditional black color for trash materials, and they would help us to better position ourselves for pending mandates in the future.
I was just laughing because I was saying that the chip in the trash can might help solve crimes in the future. I'm sorry, I had to say that.
As part of this effort, we would also conduct a comprehensive outreach campaign for neighborhoods that would receive the new containers. The draft materials are attached to your report. They include a frequently asked questions letter that would go out a few weeks prior to distribution, as well as a hanger flyer that you see on the right of the screen that would be included with the new containers at distribution. And these would be multilingual outreach materials that help to explain why the containers are being replaced, provide an explanation relative to the color changes, as well as replacement instructions. The materials would also explain very clearly that there's no cost for the new containers and that they would be replaced on their current collection date to minimize any inconvenience for residents. And if approved tonight, we would move forward according to the following schedule. This includes issuing an RFQ to get competitive bids, placing a container order, and then the subsequent outreach and delivery of containers. And that's the conclusion of our report. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
I have a question on Mr. Mayor. Yes, on the staff report, you have the daily collection areas, and I have one. The Monday area is in green. Which areas will be serviced first? Have theirs replaced first? I'm sorry. Is it Wednesday and?
Yes.
It's Monday and Wednesday.
Yes, Mayor and Council. So as proposed, we would look at that far northern area in Monday's collection route and then the far southern portion. And then over the next several years, we would work our way towards the middle. And depending on the success of this first phase of the replacement program, we could look to enhance the level of funding potentially in the coming years to do the replacement project more quickly.
I think it's a good idea.
So, Jenna? You have any
I
questions?
just was curious. You said you will place the order in September, but will be replaced next year in winter. That was why taking a year to replace them.
Yes, sir.
Just in the entire city will take a year to replace,
No.
or just starting next year?
Mayor and council, so there's a little bit of a lead time associated with the order of these containers. And another element that we have to deal with is the city of Los Angeles is currently going through a major procurement for their trash and recycling services. So we found in our conversations with some of our suppliers that there is a little bit longer of a lead time because they're gearing up for their new contracting.
Okay. So our plan is to start from north and south, right? These
Yes,
two
sir.
areas first. And how many households, how many containers is in these two plans?
It would be roughly, Mayor and Council, 3,000 properties for the single family. We average about 3 containers per property. Now, some of the areas, especially in that bottom, the south area, those are intensive, more so with multifamily units. So it varies a little bit from that standard single family type of plan. So plus or minus, we feel that we'll be able to at least exhaust that initial supply in this go around.
And what is the cost of per container?
Roughly $50 per container, sir.
$50. And on your slide, you showed $2,500. What was that? If you go back.
So that, let me see if I can go to it. So that $2,500 is what we're paying right now for the specialty costs related to our burgundy or maroon trash containers.
For how many containers?
Regardless of what the order size is.
So it's one time fee?
Yes, sir. And so by moving to this more traditional approach, we would forego that cost.
So it's $2,500, the difference between ordering the traditional colors that we have and the new colors?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I had one of those old containers, the trash ones, was very sturdy, and we used it for about 15, 16 years. And I think last year I asked the city to replace it. The new ones are very flimsy. They were very flimsy. I mean, I still have it. I mean, if they want to take a look at it. The old ones were very sturdy, very, very rigid. The new ones are very... So whoever we are sending the RFP to, we have to make sure that we at least physically see, not us, you guys.
Yes, sir.
Physically see the quality of the containers. I don't know how do we go about that. Do we see the containers, or we are just...
Yes, Mr. Mayor, in our spec that we sent out with the RFP, will specify that they have to have a demo containers for our inspection. And we'll make sure that it's consistent with all the respondents to the RFQ.
Okay, so
that everyone bids on the same requirement.
Okay, so it's $50 a container. Am I correct? $50 a container?
Yes, sir.
So it's $150 a household times 3,000. What does that amount to? And where does the funding coming from?
So if I go back to...
450,000, okay.
Sir, if you look at... so there's 300,000 budgeted per year for the containers, roughly 5,000 containers per year, and then $50,000 for the commercial bins. So that will net us approximately 100 bins.
The commercial bins, are those the maroon ones, those big maroon ones?
Yes, ma'am.
And what will those, the new ones, look like?
Those as proposed, we would leave...
Stay the same?
Yeah, stay the same.
Mr. Mayor, to respond to your question, this is budgeted out of the refuse fund.
Out of the refuse fund. And how long would it take for the entire city to be replaced? Estimation?
Based on the current replacement schedule, we're looking at around a 30-year replacement. But as I mentioned, based on the success of this first phase, and if the council is interested, it might be worthwhile to come back and look at enhancing that and replacing them quickly.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with replacing the ones that are, in need of replacement. But thank you. I think I asked all my questions from you. But Mr. Ochoa, just a quick quick question that, we're talking about the Grayson, we're talking about the commercial accounts trying to, have 4 different commercial companies to pick up franchising. And also, we also, once in a while we talk about if you're going to stay in this business or not. Is this a must do? Is this there's a need today to do this replacement, or
yes, I'm sorry.
Or we can just in upcoming months see what the council wants to do with the entire. We kept talking about this issue of franchising for the commercial sites and also the residential pickup. If we're going to stay in that business, or
certainly if we were to analyze whether or not to stay in the business, and for example, if we were going to leave the business somehow, some way after going through all the requisite channels that we'd have to go through by law, we would take full stock of the value, which would include the actual rolling stock and the equipment that we use. So if you are going to provide new bins, albeit at some depreciated value, you would be able to see that reflected in whatever the value that you would ultimately sell for. So that's on one side. On the other side, while you're making that decision, if that decision ultimately gets made either to franchise or to ultimately exit, that would take place over a number of years. And to the extent that some of the equipment that we have is rather old, I would think that we would replace this just for the convenience of the customer, so that no matter what the council ultimately decides to do, the customer has the best equipment to service them, knowing that if at some point you were to make a very significant policy decision, you would still realize some value for that. So I think you can, at the very least, move forward with the RFQ process and make sure that the pricing is competitive.
And if I may, to add to what Mr. Ochoa mentioned about the age of these containers, the standard useful life of these containers are about 15 years. Most of our containers are 20, 25 years old.
I know mine.
And
mine
yours is
mine
a good
are
example.
like maybe 25-year-old, because when I moved into this house in 1999, they were already old.
Right. So every year we've been spending $80,000 a year just to repair these old containers, and we're almost done with Band-Aids and duct tapes, and so it's time to
repair. Do we repair?
Yes, we do.
$50 a container. Why would you even repair it?
Because it takes
replace it.
Yeah,
it's easier. Okay, all right. So tonight we're voting on the RFP only. We're not okay.
I'll move the item.
I second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Agajanian,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Najarian, Sinanian, Mayor Garabetian.
Yes. What's next, please?
Director of Public Works regarding the North San Fernando Road Corridor Landscape Maintenance District. One, resolution initiating the fiscal year 2017-2018 levy of annual assessment and ordering the preparation of the engineer's report. 2, resolution preliminary approving the engineer's report for the fiscal year 2017-2018 levy and collection of annual assessment. 3, resolution declaring the City Council's intention to levy and collect the annual assessment for fiscal year 2017-18.
Socha?
Yes, sir. This is the annual step that we take with respect to the continuing assessment and the levy, as you heard, for the San Fernando Landscape Maintenance Corridor. What you are doing here is considering the levy assessment, preliminarily approving the engineer's report, and then setting the date and time for the hearing, which would be July 18th, where all of the affected property owners that paid the assessment could come forward to protest if they so chose, and anything within the engineer's report or the levy itself. So if you have any specific questions about the process or about the engineer's report, Shay Eccleston certainly can answer those for you.
Any questions?
Just in the report, these are all the lands. I mean, the APN number is here on the page. Let's say starts from page 1 actually until page 14. These are all the lands around there
in the assessment district.
Yes, assessment area. or that area number 1 to 5?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Agajanian, that is correct. Within the corridor, San Fernando Road corridor that are related to the assessment district.
Okay, like the person would know what he has to pay, specifically his land or the assessment, how much it's going to be, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, that's what I just want to know. And how what is the basis that we divided in, I guess, five zone? Since I don't know, what is the basis of division, that this is one by the railroad and then further down is green and blue and pink and yellow?
Yes, Councilmember Agajanian, members of the State Council, my name is Shay Eccleston with the Public Works Department. Those 5 zones were initially determined at the formation of the district back in 2007, following some redevelopment activity in that area. So they were formed in relationship to the special benefits that make up the assessment.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any more questions?
No.
Is there a motion?
I'll move the item.
I second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Agajanian,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Najarian, Sinanian, Mayor Garabedian.
Yes. What's next, please?
Next would be oral communications. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Council may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The city manager may refer the matter to the appropriate department for investigation and report. There is 1 card.
Peter? Last name Hitch? Peter Hitch? No? Okay. Last call. Okay. What's next, please?
Peter?
I guess he's here.
Oh, I think he's here. Okay. Time's up. No, I'm just
I was just finishing. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. My name is Peter Hatch, as you probably just heard, and I have been a resident and property owner in Glendale since 2001. That's a mistake. 2001, both in Adams Hill and Glen Oaks Canyon. I presently reside at 500 North Louise and have applied for permission to build a new residence in Glen Oaks Canyon, where I plan to live with my wife and 2 daughters. Please allow me to begin by quoting from an email sent by Jeremy Kahn, Glendale City Arborist, addressed to Vista Ezati, Planning Assistant for the City of Glendale. Does everybody have a copy of this here? No. So it's from Jeremy Kahn. It was sent.
What was that? Ezati?
Ezati. Yes, it's to Vista Ezati.
Okay.
And it was sent on January 27th at 1:52 p.m. The subject was a resubmittal of 265 Edwards Place, which is where I was applying, and I'm still trying to get permission to build my residence. Good afternoon, Vista. There was only one protected indigenous tree on the property, the 2-stem coast live oak tree below the proposed house location. The tree had a partial split at the union of the 2 stems that was identified by the arborist of record when the indigenous tree report was created. The indigenous tree report recommended removal of the tree, and this was approved by forestry on 2 conditions. First, that the removal permit would not be issued until the plans for the new house had been approved by the city. And second, that the property owner would replace the lost oak tree with 4 new oak trees. In May, one of the 2 stems of the oak tree failed at the split. This failure released the property owner of the responsibility to obtain a permit prior to removal, because removing fallen trees and hazardous trees does not require a permit. However, it does not release
the property owner from the responsibility to plant new trees on the property. Perhaps it helps clarify things to understand that the removal permit and the requirement to replant is part of the city's approval to develop the property and was not an independent request to perform tree work. This is not correct. I requested to remove the tree when I discovered the condition of the tree shortly after purchasing the property, and I had not yet requested any permits or started the process to develop the property. I was asked if I had intention to do that, and I said on a telephone call, yes, I did, but there were no plans filed at that point. Now, this is still part of the original email message that I'm reading from. On June 8th, 2017, the Design Review Board, no, I beg your pardon. This is my comment. On June 8th, the Design Review Board sent my application to build a new residence on my property back for redesign. June 8th, that was 18 days ago, 9 days ago. With the following note: the applicant shall comply with the recommendations made by the Urban Forestry Department dated April 7th, 2017. Those recommendations include the planting of 4 oak trees to replace the tree that fell down by an act of God. He had referred to this up above, and this had occurred before I submitted any application to develop the property. This recommendation or condition defies logic, for if, as noted by the city arborist, there was no permit required since the tree had fallen down, and there was no permit granted because it had not yet been granted, why am I being required to replace that tree which had fallen down of its own accord? This is neither fair nor reasonable. I have come here before the council to request the redress and disallow the requirement to plant 4 trees to replace a tree that fell down by itself. I'm almost done. Since the Design Review Board has now been, my application has been sent back a 3rd time for redesign, in part for this illogical reason. I hereby request the City Council to waive the fee for this 3rd mandated hearing, which is close to $6,000, and that the Council also direct the planning assistant, Vista Erzati, who's preparing the redesign for the 3rd time, to schedule a new hearing as quickly as possible so that we can move forward and build my new house. Thank you very much.
Question.
Was it at all clear?
I have a question from...
Yes.
I guess we have replaced the fees if we go through, the first one is more expensive, then it becomes cheaper. I don't know if he is aware of it or not.
If you're right, sir, effective July 1, that would take place.
Oh, so it's not going to apply to him?
Depending on, I'd have to defer to Phil. I think it depends on when he would actually come forward.
That's correct.
So if the redesign is to be mandated in the new fiscal year, it would be significantly less expensive.
Correct.
So he will pay less?
He would. He would pay the new fee.
Right. Okay, so maybe...
Well, but even...
We lowered the fees. What about the, who said it was an act of God? Was it you or the...
The tree was damaged. I had applied for the permission to remove it before the permit was granted and before the tree fell down. That's why I call it an act of God. It was something completely out of everyone's control. It had been damaged. It did fall down by itself.
And when did you apply for your permit first?
The original permit?
Before the tree...
I'd have to look that up, but it was shortly after I purchased the property. And it was before I made any application for building permits. So he's trying to say that it was part of the building permit process. It really wasn't. I was required.
We usually don't respond to the speakers at the oral communication. Just want to have a clarification. So when you purchased the house, from the date that you purchased the house and the day you submitted your application, how much time difference between the two?
First of all, I was not purchasing a house. It's a vacant lot.
Vacant lot.
And it was shortly after. I mean, I purchased the thing, and a few months I had to get an arborist to come make a report, take pictures, measure the tree, everything.
Thank you. Your request has been noted. We are going to refer you to our city manager and Mr. Lanzafane, Community Development Director, and they will address the issue with you.
Okay.
We're going to make a decision here.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming. Okay, what's next, please?
New business?
No new business.
No new business?
Adjournment?
I move to adjourn.
You're adjourned.